Hi, and welcome to our program, KRPW Local Look, a local town government news program for Concord and Carlisle. I'm Peggy Wargelin.
And I'm Stephen Bader. Today we have a special segment, What's on Your Mind, with Carlin Reed. Today, Carlin is interviewing our special guests, Court Booth, Concord School Committee member, and Dr. Laurie Hunter, Regional School Superintendent. Over to you, Carlin.
Hi, I'm Carlin Reed, and I'm here with our special guest today, Dr. Laurie Hunter, the Regional School Superintendent, and Court Booth, our school committee member. And we're going to be talking on a special segment today. Laurie, Court, I'm glad you could join me. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So, what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about today? What two topics have you selected?
Well, we have no end of topics in
Yeah,
front
no,
of the school committee
Right.
and even more in front of the
Yeah.
superintendent
Yeah.
on any given day. But we thought that for purposes of communicating with our community members, the big items I think on everybody's mind right now are the middle school project first, and then the efforts that we're making to finish off the high school, finish off the high school project, because there are just a few bits undone, a few that are significant to the students here. So we'd like to tackle those in our few minutes together, if we could, Carlin.
Let's get started then. Let's start with the middle school. Okay?
Great.
Great.
I could frame it this way by saying that I first walked into the Sanborn School in 1985 and concluded immediately that it was time to replace the building. No, I quite honestly, it was walls and roofs that worked just fine and superior educators, but it wasn't an attractive, inviting place then, and it is not an inviting, attractive place now by our standards. Doesn't mean that good education didn't happen in that facility in the Peabody building, but they do have some deficiencies that the teachers have compensated for many, many years. And over the last several years, we have reached the point where the widespread opinion is it's time. It's time to take two buildings that we have historically called one middle school and actually create one middle school that serve contemporary needs. One school, the Sanborn, was built during a middle school model era. Another was built actually as an elementary school, never served as an elementary school, the Peabody. And they've undergone a number of modifications and efforts to maintain them, but the risk of maintaining them only increases. And so when we look at cost of operating two facilities for one school, when we look at the maintenance needs and the risks involved in continuing to support these older schools, and when we look at the wants and needs of today's kids and how we need to support them, which is not what it looked like a half a century ago, it all has created a pretty compelling need to bring a new middle school in front of the town.
Sure, that makes sense. So what's the status on the middle school right now? What's going on with it?
Well, and you can help me here, of
Sure.
course, Dr. Hunter, but the town has taken this on as a project. This is a town project, not a school project.
Yep.
And the select board has established a middle school building committee of 17 people.
Yes.
An impressive array of talent around the room.
Yeah.
I won't include myself in that number because I think I bring some skill sets to it, but not the specialized ones that are so critical to a job like this that in fact are well represented in that room.
Very
with
well.
construction experts, education experts, and others. And that committee has been underway since early last fall, I believe, even August.
Even
wasn't
summer,
it?
yeah.
And we're reaching now some of the, I don't know if impasse is the word, but some of the critical decision-making points
sure,
where
yeah.
we are trying to look at big picture wants and needs, which equate with big costs,
Potentially,
and trying to rein those in such that we can protect the core educational mission, which I'm I hope you'll talk
I'd be
about
glad
so
to.
that people understand what today's model looks
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
But the wants and needs around the fifth and final school that we're going to build in my lifetime in this town is a project that we want to have done right. But it doesn't mean we can do everything we want.
Sure.
So let's talk
because-
about those core principles. the
Sure,
core-
sure.
What are you looking for in a middle school?
Yeah, so we're really trying to create a learning environment that allows us to teach for the new world around our kids. You know, it's very daunting to us that teaching and learning right now means we're preparing kids for jobs that may not exist at the moment. So, you know, you take, who knew there'd be an Uber 10 years ago, you know, and the leadership and the software and all that had to come from that. So it's that kind of environment that we're in where we need to build settings for kids where they're growing flexibility, they're growing collaboration, creativity, inquiry, and hands-on problem solving while they have those solid foundational skills. So primary to our mission, we've actually made some progress at a smaller scale with this year's reconfiguration. So the 6th grade's all at Peabody and 7 and 8 is at Sanborn.
Right, because they switched over. if I
Yeah,
remember.
so, and that's been an incredibly positive change, and we're really starting to evaluate the immense impact that's had on the 6th grade. And it wasn't just a physical change. We've changed the structure of the learning environment. The kids are in pure teams, and that's the part I want to talk on in a minute. But it's also given them a softer landing to 6th grade and an entry point where we've slowed things down and give them foundational skills for how to be a middle schooler
Sure,
and how to have 5 teachers instead of 1 and some of those pieces. So really what we're starting to realize is we want that middle school, pure middle school environment for all of the kids. What we have at Sanborn really mimics what Sanborn was built as, which is really a junior high school. And the difference between a middle school and a junior high is the team approach versus singleton classes, and kids are all mixed together in a team. They're clustered in a group of maybe 80 kids who across 4 content area teachers really travel and
So
share.
they're sort of like a cohort goes
Yeah,
through this,
exactly.
they do this, so it's
Exactly.
they're a unit of the
Yeah, and they're
Okay,
not
that
together
makes
all
sense.
day. We still want to have a school where kids are all mixed for art and music and PE and things like that. But for the core content areas, there's a neighborhood there for them. And the gift of that is the teachers know them at a different level. They know each other at a different level, which you'll hear me incorporate social emotional learning and our student wellness initiatives through all of these discussions. It really creates a different environment, and school becomes a safe, joyous place for kids.
Sure.
We can't do that at Sanborn right now because of the limitations of the building, and it just doesn't work. Teaming also means physically you're putting kids near each other. So when I say 4 core content teachers are on a team, they're physically proximate to each other.
You said 4 core content?
So science, social studies, math, and
Okay,
English.
okay, got it.
And it means those classrooms are near to each other, so kids aren't spending all their time hiking up and down a building. When we've timed kids from one end of Sanborn all the way out to the modular classrooms, it's a 5-minute walk in a schedule we've built 3 minutes passing time, so that's stressful.
Okay, that doesn't work.
Right, so we're trying, the vision that's really evolved for us is to take what we've started at 6th grade and be able to provide that for all middle school kids in the new school. So
Okay.
that's the work we're doing now is, okay, so if that's the vision, what does it look like for space? And how does it come together, and what the designers might be able to
So can't you
do
just
in a
draw a box and
construct?
say, okay,
Yeah.
do this here, that there?
Kind of, but you know, the professionals are taking that and making it start to work and turn into a design of some kind at a really high level. Just to clarify where we are in the process, this is called schematic design. It doesn't mean we're down designing classrooms and water fountains and things like that. It means we're at a really high level. They're going to be looking at the footprint, the total square footage of the building, conceptually where classrooms and big spaces will be, so that by the time we get to the late spring and summer, we're going to have something really to share
Oh, neat.
with the committee.
Now you've
Yeah.
already started sharing some of that vision with
High
members of the
level.
community.
Yeah.
You just recently had a public forum or
Yeah.
2, and you
Correct.
talked a little bit about what are some of
Yeah.
the plans. What's your takeaway from those
Sure.
forums?
Our takeaway is there's a great deal of interest.
Absolutely.
There is no hesitation about trying to move forward. Nobody's
Yeah,
saying
this-
this is premature.
Yeah.
This addressing this need, and we are also seeing, understandably, stakeholder groups, if you don't mind the term, come forward to say, let's make certain that we have ample art space. Let's not follow some
Yeah, give me
state
some examples
guideline.
of
Sure.
art space is one. you're talking about.
Let's understand that we have an extraordinary music program, so we're not
Right.
going to follow somebody else's formula for how to build for music. We want outdoor learning spaces, so let's take that magnificent environment, and it really is. It's a lovely, lovely spot. If you investigate the Sanborn property and how it spills out into the forest behind and the rail trail behind and the marsh behind that, it's an exceptional environment. We're being reminded, use that wisely,
Sure.
take full advantage of that. We're being reminded that we have many students with very specific learning needs, and the building has to address those very specific learning
Yeah.
needs, so it fits our inclusion model to allow students with special learning needs to be well accommodated in the new facility. So those are ideas, some of the
Yeah.
ideas.
I think
that
I'd
we're
add
hearing.
some of the community ideas that have also emerged, which is exactly
what?
what we're hoping for. These forums are so we can get input
Right.
before the building's designed, and that's exactly
Better
what we're
before than
hearing.
afterwards,
Well,
right?
exactly, right. It doesn't mean we can do all of this, but at least we get it all put out there. Clearly, the sustainability goals are very high, as would fit with the town's adopted goals, and so that's an ongoing conversation. The good news is when you talk sustainability at this early stage, I'm learning a lot about what matters. The building envelope matters, and other basic decisions that you make very early on will allow that to be more doable. And there's going to be a lot of discussion there to what extent we go, how much upfront money do you put in for long-term savings. Lots of discussions there, but it's a high priority.
Let me hold you right there. You
Sure.
said building envelope.
Yeah, so that's
What
the
does that mean?
what's the building made of?
Okay. You mean like
What's-
windows? What kind
Windows
of glass
for
it
sure,
is?
even the wall
Wall construction.
material.
So it's actually the infrastructure, the construction of it.
absolutely
That's
the
what it was.
infrastructure.
And the orientation of the building.
Where it
Where it
is,
is on the site. That's
sun facing,
Oh,
which
okay.
side. Really early decisions matter
Sure.
greatly.
Sure.
I think in addition to that, we've certainly heard the need for full-size gymnasiums in Concord. It's a limited resource right now, and we've absolutely heard the youth groups and others, adult youth group and youth groups say that there's more need for gym, more demand than there is. So that's on the list, I think, as well as pretty high-level consideration of an auditorium space and what could that offer to the town, potentially a different space for town meeting.
Oh, like community use
Community
of the school,
use
not
of-
just for kids, but
Absolutely,
for
and
adults doing
even
things.
last night we heard other ideas of how a building might serve the community as a whole and not just the school. So
Okay.
it's good, those lists are growing, and all of it will be on the table as we go into this process.
It sounds like
So,
you're getting a lot of input.
a lot.
Let's talk a little bit about process,
Yeah.
and then eventually get to our second point.
Yes,
for the-
sure.
But
Yeah.
let's talk about the process, schedule, timing,
Yep.
town meeting type stuff.
Yeah.
What's
Want me
going
to-
on?
If you would,
Sure.
sure.
So this high-level design work, we're looking to have complete by the summer. There'll be phases of that complete earlier, but the final will be the summer. So the warrant article that was funded is meant to go through this feasibility and schematic design.
From last year.
From
right,
last
got it,
year.
Right.
And so then we'll get to a point in the summer where that is complete, and that's why we've started to talk about the timing of a special town meeting for the entire cost of the project, which we don't have yet. We're still too early for that. Sometime this fall, we were the select board this week trying to look at all the different options.
It's
So
a complicated process.
It
but It
is.
isn't just have a town meeting and
No.
have an election. There's a lot of pieces
yeah,
in between it.
yeah, and the timing has a lot of variables this year with the presidential votes all going on
Sure.
simultaneously.
Sure.
So we're wading our way through those decisions. And that would mean, should that be successful, the following year would be the complete design work where they are down in designing classrooms and
Right.
water fountains. And that would take about a year. We would then break ground in the fall of '21.
Fall of 21.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the goal
Got
of
it.
completion by the early summer, late spring of '23, with
Okay.
students entering in the fall of '23.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Quite a process.
yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's a very brief time schedule. Now, a special town meeting scheduled, has one been scheduled yet?
No, we had one conversation with the select board this week.
Yes.
We need to return to them and
They'll make it-
finalize those dates. We did
Right.
not settle that this week.
I'm sure that'll be coming soon. Then
Yeah.
you'll be able to get on with the rest of your plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Excellent.
there's a very understandable debate about whether
Yeah.
to tie some of the decision-making in with the presidential election or not.
Sure.
How much attention can we give to each critical thing we're doing, one on the national level and one
Yeah.
very important
Yeah.
to us on the local level among everything else that we decide
Yeah.
as a town.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Okay, well, that sounds like it pretty much gives us a high-level view of what's going on at the middle school process.
And
Anything else on that before we move?
we would give a plug to the best information source, which is either the town website or
Oh,
the
yes, of
school
course.
Yes.
website, so that
Thank you.
people can dial into meeting minutes, upcoming agendas, reports, everything that we want to be shared and disseminated and understood as thoroughly as possible. So one good link for folks is concordps.org, which will take you to a middle school link.
And an email address, should you wish to give feedback in the
Absolutely.
process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Can
Okay.
I want to just take another 60 seconds before we leave this subject. I want to return to the word you referred to, neighborhood,
Yeah.
which is actually a word that is used by students and teachers. And I want to emphasize, and you could probably articulate this better than I, Laurie, but this idea of these clusters or neighborhoods, the way the experts talk about it, what they'll say is we're going to build a building that inspires and facilitates the very kind of teaching and learning behavior that we want, that it will happen spontaneously in these spaces, that collaboration between children happens spontaneously, that teachers see multidisciplinary work happen spontaneously, not something that requires this grand structural design that is kind of clunky and primitive, but in fact is live and easy every day. And in visiting schools, which we've done,
Yeah.
Right, as part of the prep work. you
it's
see.
not a stretch to say that's what's
Yeah,
happening.
no,
It's-
I would totally agree with you.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
and so I think this is why Laurie gets excited about
Yeah, I
the
mean, I could
potential here.
give me the educational side of this discussion. We could go on a long time because
Absolutely.
the space will absolutely provide new opportunities that we really can't provide right now.
Well, then maybe we'll
Yeah.
check in with you in about a year just to see
Yeah,
how things
great.
are ticking along,
Good.
see what the progress has been made
Great.
on that. Okay. All right, let's talk about the second topic that you mentioned about the. How did you phrase it?
So,
Finishing at the
well,
high
my
school?
my way of phrasing it. I don't know if everybody uses that language, but we have a what can be best described as a chronic issue at this high
Yeah.
school. This is our crown jewel right now, a community high school for Concord Carlisle. And we have students and teachers who daily suffer transportation issues in the simple form of where do I park my car?
Yeah. Okay. So this is
and-
basically the parking lot issue that applies not just to Concord but also Carlisle because it's going to be on both town
Yes.
meetings. Is that right?
That is
So it's for
correct.
both towns. Yes.
That is
Okay.
correct.
So that's a good interest.
Now, I will express this my way. I'm not sure anybody would express it the same way. Perhaps some would. This is a problem that some of us hoped would simply go
Yeah.
away. You know, we've neglected it or tried to work around the edges to solve the fact that we have more students insisting on driving to this school every day than this property has been able to accommodate.
Okay.
Hence, they're spilling out into the Beatty parking lot, they're spilling out onto Laurel Street. It's causing strife between students and other students, and even teachers and students who are vying for the same
Right.
spots.
We heard some of this last year at the town meeting.
Indeed.
Yes,
When a similar
yeah.
but not identical warrant article came up for discussion.
A similar but not identical. It was bundled with some improvements on the Ring Road,
Right.
so we wanted to look at more surface for parking and restoring the Ring Road and putting in proper sidewalks and curbing and so on. So they were bundled together, and it was defeated by a narrow 12 votes, perhaps.
So
Again,
what's different this year from last year?
what is different this year than last year? One is that we have expected the school administration to look hard at every internal creative solution possible. What can you do with the constraints you have now? Who's carpooling? What lotteries are you having? What incentives do you have beyond what we knew about yesterday to use the bus in lieu of the private car?
And I think I heard something like that was going on within the school system.
Yeah,
You were
and
doing some explorations on
And
that?
we're going to talk
Absolutely.
about that in just 1 minute, but I want to preface it with the following. I started this whole consideration with the idea that surely we could simply insist that more students use buses, fewer students drive. And it would be in keeping with prudent practices, conservative practices, sustainable practices,
absolutely.
reduce our carbon footprint, do the right thing, which conceptually all made perfect sense to me, but it didn't work when I started talking with individual students and individual families. Because when I heard the individual cases, they were not extreme. These students have pretty adult-sounding lives. And some have jobs, and some have sports commitments, and some have music commitments, and some have drama commitments, and some have all of the above. And they're doing a lot of pretty demanding management of their daily lives that in fact requires the ability to transport themselves the way you and I do.
Yeah.
So we're providing opportunities for these students, as we should. We're putting big expectations on them, as we should. And then we're saying, in regard to getting around town, we're going to make that much more difficult than it has to be at the very place where we want to care for you best, your high school.
Right.
So I had the naive belief for a while that maybe simply enough pain, enough difficulty would force students to operate differently.
That
But
was the
they're
kind
not
of
going to forego their
No.
sports, and why should they? And they're not going to forego their drama, and why should they? And so on. So we, I think, should hear from Dr. Hunter about how the administration has tried to manage within the
Right.
current constraints. But what we're going to lead to is this school committee, after a lot of very difficult debate,
Yes.
it was not easy.
Yes.
It was a thorough discussion, several of them.
Yes.
Yes.
and there'll be more, but we have decided to bring the article, the single article for more parking in front of the townspeople in both towns yet again, because we don't think the problem is going to be remediated in any way that serves the practical and actually the emotional needs
That's
of these
right.
students. I could not start my day if it took me 20 extra minutes that were stressful minutes every day to get my car parked and grab my gear and head into my workplace. Well, students are no different. Actually, they are. They deserve a wee bit more care and attention
Little
than
more.
I
Yeah,
do.
right, because there's
Yeah.
15 and,
Yeah.
well, 16 and
So,
17.
Tell me what the school's been trying to do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these are in the planning stages. What we've really chosen to do is step back and do some data collection to better
Okay.
understand. I feel like the first couple of years of trying to tackle this, this has been an issue since the minute I walked in here almost 3 years ago. So we've tried some high-level things that actually, this is how this goes. Sometimes it's counterproductive. We numbered the spots, and that's created more strife than less in some instances. You know, you can't always see pros and cons until it plays out. So we're now diving deeper because what we realized is we were addressing symptoms and not root causes. So we are in the
okay.
process of, we've completed interviews of the juniors and seniors and how they get to school and why they choose those modes. So that's fresh data for us and important data for us. We've also now started a parent survey because we also want to understand parental piece. There is a realization here that 16 and 17-year-old kids aren't making their own decisions on
They're not
some of
buying the
these
cars, for
choices. They're
example,
certainly
right?
not buying the
Yeah.
cars, which is why when folks want to incentivize electric and things, I struggle a little bit. So there's a survey out right now to the high school families to understand the choices they're making as families. Third of all, we have a district level sustainability committee. We totally understand the goals of wanting to reduce carbon footprints and trying to balance that these aren't competing factors, that building parking doesn't mean we aren't really working hard at sustainability.
That makes sense.
And I think from a distance, it looks like building a parking lot says, we don't care, go ahead and drive. That is not the case. We are working really hard because the parking lot will not fix all of our parking problems. We still have to do all this work. And we believe that the kids are the leaders of the environmental change in the future. So we have to do it for those reasons too.
And they're
so
being involved in this process.
they are,
as
and I
well.
actually wanted to get to that part because I think that some of the biggest change in the last year has been the involvement of the kids.
Yeah.
So either directly, I've been meeting regularly with the Green Team and the Student Senate, and I have students sitting on the district level sustainability committee, either in those formal forums or through their advisors and through their administrators or through their words and the way they share their feedback to us, which at this point sometimes is just emailing us to tell us directly what they think, or at a school committee meeting, the representatives.
They didn't hold back.
They did not hold
They
back
did not
the other
hold
night
back,
and
yeah.
used their representative role as a real opinion sharing
She's speaking
opportunity.
of two students who serve as school committee representatives.
Yeah, really
Right.
gave you that perspective.
And those meetings are actually videotaped by
Yeah, you can
MNTV,
watch.
that you can watch them online
Correct.
or on the television
Yes.
as well.
And
That's
I
good.
think the additional piece is really engaging with all the community sustainability groups has gotten a lot more organized. A year ago, we started to get representatives from a number of the groups in the same room with me and the other administrators and some teachers and some students. And that setting has really become an action plan.
Sure.
And the community groups are actually now engaging and actually working with us. So Mothers Out Front wrote the parent survey, and we've just pushed out the survey that they helped us draft. We've been doing traffic collection data with Mothers Out Front, asking to borrow the police ticker so we could just get the number of vehicles in and out on a
Right.
given day and get a bit,
Sure.
again, more data collection. We had some leaders of a bicycle club in town, adult leaders, come in and talk with us on how do we just get the mode of bicycling in front of the kids more. So they're talking with us about cyclothons.
And you said town, you mean both Concord and Carlisle? What
Yeah,
kind of-
so this was a Concord-based biking
Sure.
group who
what
reached
kind of
out to us.
What kind of response have you gotten from Carlisle? What kind of outreach have you been
Yep,
doing
so we've
with
been
the school
talking with
articles?
Carlisle regularly at a little bit different level. The Carlisle kids are here, so trying to look at what the Carlisle adult structures are right now. It's been more
Right.
at the town official level and
Sure.
the more formal settings of the select board and the finance committee and such
Well,
like
it's
that.
Still, they're important because
Absolutely.
they vote first. They vote on
Nope,
the 27th.
and that's
of
a point
April.
we need to talk on,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So that's the work we've been doing to try to make this a different discussion than a year
Okay,
ago.
okay.
So that it's try to help the understanding that all these other things need to keep happening and continuing. But at the same time, every day there's stress here about parking, and kids
You
are
don't have to tell
coming
me that. I've
coming early to
experienced it,
park
yeah.
on the side road so they can get the spot before everybody else does, and sleeping in their cars for half an hour, and none of that feels like we're serving the kids in the best possible way. So as their representatives, we felt the need to again ask if this could be considered. And I think Court's initial point was we're trying to finish the high school project. I think the parking and the loop road, whenever we get back to that, are really the final stages of the high school building project and
Okay.
trying to put the final touches on.
That makes sense. Now, the mechanics of the warrant articles themselves,
Yeah.
they look the same on both the
Yeah.
Concord town meeting warrant article as well as on the Carlisle.
Yes.
The dollar amount is, what? How much is it? 840 something?
It's
About, yeah, that approximate.
$848,000, which
Yeah.
is not an inconsiderable
No.
sum.
No, it's all right, but
Um,
that's not it's not each town's share.
No,
It's
that'll
kinda
be
split
split.
up.
It's the total, and it represents not only the parking, but the lighting, some curbing, and
Okay.
the potential for significant costs around water management,
Yeah, 'cause this-
things like that. We hope we won't need that sum of money, but that's
Right.
a
Right.
sum that protects us.
As well as electric chargers, so we
Yes.
can
Sure.
begin to park electric vehicles
Oh,
here on
that's
the
good.
campus.
That would be
Yeah.
something you don't have an electric
We
charging.
don't.
Carlisle Public School System is putting one in their
Yeah.
public school area, but
Yeah.
we don't have one here at the high school.
We
yet.
don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be
And,
something.
and there was some discussion in some quarters, would bringing the article in front of town meeting again mean that the school committee didn't fully respect the wishes of last year's town meeting? Answer, no.
Right.
We do respect that decision. We do. However, by carving this out as a single decision for the town,
Sure.
We think we allow a more precise decision-making
Sure.
around this issue so that we can ask again.
And that's another thing. You're also pointing out that this issue is not going away.
No,
You have to come back again, and it's not going away.
it's not.
Yes.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. And then while we would all love to change behavior and suddenly change how our kids are scheduled and operate, that's not an immediate fix.
Gotcha.
It's very
Okay.
complicated.
You have a lot going on these
Yeah,
days, I can tell, just
yeah.
in those two particular issues. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to add on that particular point?
I think we should note a few dates for
Sure.
people.
Oh, sure.
We have on March 16th the public hearing that's conducted by the FinCom in Concord.
That's in Concord.
Right.
It's in Concord, and that'll be at Townhouse, and that's when that's the night when they'll be looking with the community. These are, of course, open meetings where we want as much participation as possible. They'll be looking at the school articles, and that's not only the budgets, the operating budgets for the next fiscal year, but also the warrant article for the high school.
Right. And
March
a similar
16th, yeah.
meeting will be scheduled in Carlisle. We don't have the dates yet. We need to
Right.
work with them.
Their warrant hasn't closed yet,
Right.
so.
And then town meeting is interestingly simultaneous this year.
Isn't that great? April 27th. it
Yeah,
does start, right?
we've
So how'd
been,
that work out?
The school committee's been working with the moderators in both town because some of us would like to be in both places. So actually the agreement to date has been that the school articles will be on in Carlisle first on Monday, the 27th of April,
Right.
and then scheduled to be in Concord Tuesday, the 28th.
Sounds
So that's the plan.
So that'll work out.
Yeah.
Well, I think that sounds like a very workable plan, and I wish very, very good luck on both of the issues. You have lots going on, and it doesn't just stop at one point. It is a
Yeah.
continuing developing issue. Okay.
Thank you
great.
very much.
Thank you, yeah.
Well,
This
thank you for
is
coming. I
this is
appreciate it as
really
well.
vital for us because we want people to be as informed as
Right.
possible. We can put needs in front of the town and opportunities for decisions in front of the town, and then the towns and the voters make these decisions.
Exactly.
So
Sure.
Exactly.
thank you for
Sure. Could you give me the website one more time if they want more information about the middle school especially?
Sure.
Who's Concord?
So the simple link, I think for most folks, is concordps.org.
Okay.
And
And
then
then
there's a
right on the
page.
home page, there's a
Right.
link to go straight to the middle school
Perfect.
project or any other sources that you want in that
Sure.
website. It's a rather comprehensive
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, we've been really, from the minute we started, we wanted to be sure things
I
were
think it's well
available.
designed.
So we've
Yeah.
really tried to build a robust webpage.
Good. Well, thank you
Yeah.
both very much for coming.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
very
it,
much.
Laurie.
Thank
Cord,
you.
Thank you for joining us today. And that's been our interview with our special guests, Dr. Laurie Hunter and Court Booth, today on What's on Your Mind. Thank you for joining us. All right, back to you folks.
Thanks, Carlin, for that interview. I should remind our audience that the personal views expressed on this show may not reflect the views of the show producers, this TV station, or its sponsors.
Well, that's all we have time for today on KRPW Local Look, your local town government news show for Concord and Carlisle. Please join us again when we look at another part of our town's inner workings, and let us know if you want to be part of future programs. See you next time.